The Shepnaz podcast begins now.
You're listening to the Shepnaz podcast, a podcast at Shepherd Church. Our mission is simple. We want to help people take their next step toward Jesus. This podcast is part of that. We want to help you engage daily with your faith. Today, we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. David Earley. He is the lead pastor at First Baptist Church of Grove City, and he wrote a book called The 21 Most Effective Prayers of the Bible that we're going to be using as a guide in our 21 days of prayer starting in January. So without further ado, here's the continuation of that conversation. So what do you think, if you were to speak to, because our audience is primarily going to be people who are participating at Shepherd for worship, for discipleship. So if you were to speak to the congregants at Shepherd, what would you tell them to expect in these 21 days as we go through these most effective prayers of the Bible? And for context, we kind of gave a little bit of a sneak peek in November. We preached 3 messages in November from prayers that are in your book to help kind of prime the pump. So what would you say to people to expect in those 21 days?
Well, there's positive and negative you can expect. I think we want people to build their prayer habit, so 21 days to build a habit is what they say. So we want to see their prayer habits built. Daniel prayed 21 days before he got a breakthrough. Daniel chapter 10, incredible story. He's praying. God sends the answer right away. It takes 21 days before Gabriel can deliver the answer because of spiritual warfare. And to encourage people, okay, you've been praying about something and nothing's happening. Maybe it's a spiritual warfare issue and you need to buck it up and you need to really fight on your knees about this, and let's get some breakthroughs. So we're expecting some breakthroughs. We're also expecting some people, more enemy opposition.
Absolutely.
He doesn't like it when we pray. We're expecting more, some people are just going to be apathetic. They've gotten discouraged in the past, or they see prayer as that's for somebody else. I'm a doer. I had a guy tell me today, well, I believe in prayer, but I'm a doer. I'm not a prayer. It's like,
that's rough.
Well, you could be a doer, or you could let God be a doer and see who could do better.
I want to do my part to see God do his part. So, so those are type things we're expecting. Expect some people to get saved. We're really putting the emphasis on couples praying together. If you don't pray together consistently as a couple, let's start that. Let's make that happen. Let that be the win here these 21 days. Trying to get families. If you don't pray together as a family, 5 minutes, get all your kids around. Everybody say a one-sentence prayer. But let's get families praying together. So those are some of the things we're going after. Some people who are a little further along in prayer, we're calling them to fast or do a modified fast, a Daniel type fast where you only fruits and vegetable type thing, to really take your prayers up to a new level. And so we're looking for our church to kind of continue building our prayer culture and maybe prep us for more revival aspects than what we've been seeing.
Yep. And so, Dave, this probably isn't the first time your church has done this, I'm guessing.
Right.
What are some things that you have seen, ways that you've seen God move in the past when your church participated in the 21 days of prayer?
Well, like a parent who hasn't heard from their kid for X amount of time, they start praying and fasting, and they get a phone call out of the blue, from their adult child they haven't heard from. People getting saved. We did this leading up to a friend day and had 50 people saved in one day, which is that's a good day. We had 50 we had 50 cards turned in that they had gotten saved that day. So that's a good day. People getting jobs, that people getting direction, people getting called to ministry. I mean, it's just what it does is just raise the activity level of God. And whatever that's going to look like, You're gonna God's doing more. More's going to happen. So,
Yep.
That's good.
Yep. That's good. Dave, out of the 21 most effective prayers in the book that you have written, what's maybe your favorite prayer?
well, it depends on whichever one I read most recently is. I got some good, I've had some good. I started praying the prayers, and then I started seeing God work. So most of those prayers, I've seen God do crazy things in response. One of them that surprised me is Jacob prayed, "Bless me," right? And I'm like, when I first read that, I'm like, God's not going to answer that. That's selfish. That's just God will never answer that prayer. And God blessed him. And not only did Esau not kill him, but Jacob got a new name, Israel, and became a different person. And God blessed him. In essence, he became generous. So God blessed him to bless other people. And when I wrote the book originally, I prayed more for this book than any other book that I've written, that God would bless it. And not only did it sell a lot of copies, but I got a lot of emails from people who, my daughter was supposed to die. They're going into a last gasp operation for her brain surgery, and saw the book in the gift store and prayed and called a bunch of friends from work and went to different churches and got on their prayer list. And my daughter came through the surgery, lived, no cancer, and she's healed. Yay, God! Those type things. So
yeah. Wow, that's awesome. That's cool. Well, we've enjoyed it. We've been reading through it, and like Joey said, we've preached through a few of them, and looking forward to having our congregation be a part of it. And we really appreciate you, making this known, or making this available to other churches to participate with your church.
Absolutely.
Funny story. I just had a friend stop by out of the blue today, and he goes to a church in Grove City. And he said that he's become an elder in the church, and the pastor thinks that the elders, if you're an elder, you should at least preach once a year. So he's getting ready to preach, and he's preaching in January. And he said, "We're doing this thing called 21 Days of Prayer." And I'm like, "Oh, really? Tell me a little about that. I've never heard of it." And so he tells me all about it, and it's literally the same thing we're doing. He goes, "Yeah, we got these books, and there's these Facebook things, and these videos, and it's really cool, and everyone's going to read it. We're going to," and I'm like, "Yeah," and I held it like, "This is the one you're talking about?" It's the same one. So it was pretty cool that God's doing that all around. Cool. So
and we're praying for, I've started praying for twice as many churches next year. There'll be a new book. I got another book that's almost done on 21 keys to answering prayer. And so I just want to see. I would like to see double the number of U.S. churches. So if you're not doing it this year, get in on it for next year.
Yeah, great.
Shepherd Church invites you to celebrate the hope of Jesus through a family-friendly candlelight worship service featuring music and an encouraging message. Christmas is on a Monday this year, which makes our schedule a little different than past years. We will only have one evening service on Saturday, the 23rd at 6 p.m. and two morning services on Christmas Eve Sunday at 9 a.m. and 10:45 a.m. All are welcome to celebrate Christmas with us.
I had our staff and our board a couple years ago read another book that you had written on prayer. I think it was something about prayer for leaders. And we worked through that. And you have other resources. Can you tell us about some of the other books that you've written?
Well, the book you're talking about is called Prayer, Timeless Secret of High Impact Leaders, which is one of my favorite books. And it's kind of unique. I surveyed 75 leaders who were high impact leaders, a wide variety, denominations, theological perspectives, personalities, backgrounds, where they lived, what they did, but they all had one common denominator, which was what a normal American would call an extraordinary prayer life. And so kind of what were their best practices is what that book is. So I was looking around. I don't have any here in my office right at the moment. Oh, I do. I do got one. So it looks like this. So if you're a leader, I think this is one of the better books I've written. I've written 25, so I think it's one of the best. If you're a parent, this is a little book I wrote with a guy named Elmer Towns called Praying for Your Kids. those are a couple books on prayer that I've done that are still somewhat popular with people. But
Yeah.
a book that I'm going to have coming out next year is called 21 Reasons Bad Things Happen to Good People. And it was also really popular when it first came out about 10 or 15 years ago. And we're going to re-release it in a new format and kind of update it. But I've had so many people all around the country tell me how that book helped them when they were going through stuff. In a lot of my books, I try to put a chapter in there where a person who's not saved can read it and get saved, and then send me an email, and it's pretty cool. You just kind of having a bad day or whatever, and you get an email, and somebody. I got one from South Africa last week of somebody. I was in a bookstore. I picked up this book, and I was, doubting my relationship with God, and it's kind of fun. So.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, are most of your books available on Amazon if somebody wanted to, look you up and try to get some of those books you talked about or others?
There's a bunch of books on Amazon. And
okay.
The other book I just did I just getting reprinted is called 8 Habits of Effective Small Group Leaders, which I probably sold more books outside the U.S. than inside the U.S. because they're But if somebody wants that, they got to email me personally because I'm the only one you can get it from. But it tells you how to grow and multiply a small group. So it's what we did at New Life when we went from 30 small groups to 120 in like 5 years. That's kind of what we did. So.
Okay, great. Well, we'll definitely in the show notes, we'll put your email and put some links to some of those books, Do you have a website or anything where people could go and see the stuff you have available?
Well, the prayer website is this one, www.24daysprayernof.com, right?
21 days. 21daysprayer.org. You just did what I did. You said 24 days, but I do that all the time. I'm like, I know exactly what I mean, but my mouth doesn't say it. And I did that the other day.
We'll put the right more lately.
We'll put the right link in the show notes.
But I have a website called daveearley.com. So,
and it's DAVE. And how do you spell your last name?
EARLEY.
All right, daveearley.com.
And the Facebook page is Dr. Dave Earley. When you're looking at Facebook, you're searching, that would be where you'd find it.
Okay, great, awesome.
Before we let you go, and we know you got other things to do, I'd love if you would just give maybe a couple of simple tips for people when they decide, I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is, and I'm gonna dive into these 21 days. What are a couple of tips to help people kind of get that going in their life and to make that a habit? What would you say are some easy tips for people who maybe are starting? Because you've got people who do this and you want to take to the next level, but there are people who a regular routine of prayer would disrupt their life because it'd be so unique. What are some tips for them?
Well, everybody I teach about prayer, I kind of start them out with, okay, you need to make an appointment. Every day, this is my time, whether it's first thing in the morning or over lunch or at my break or before I go to bed. My first thing in the morning, I go to my prayer journal. Every day starts there. At night, at about 9:30, my wife and I get together, and in the same part of the house, in our chairs next to each other, and at 9:30 every night, we pray for our kids. So those are 2 appointments, and so it helps build my prayer life because I have an appointment every day. So I got a time, I got a place, I kind of have a plan. So I tell people, get a time, get a place, get a plan, and if you miss a day, just pick it up the next day. But don't miss too many days. Make it okay. You got an appointment with God. If you had an appointment with the president, you'd be there and you'd be dressed up and on time. Maybe not this president, but you know what I mean. You would, whatever. You
understand.
you would make it a priority to be there. So,
Yep.
Okay.
Good. That's great.
That's
That's
good.
awesome. Great.
Well, David, we really appreciate you take some time out today.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
more than that, we appreciate the fact that you make these resources available, that you are kingdom minded, and we're excited to join in with what God's doing and excited to be a part of the 21 days. We've done 21 days of prayer now a few times, but we're really looking forward to this specific one to join in with churches all over the world.
Well, I think it's really cool also to know, I mean, we know other churches are doing it, but we're reading the same thing as people in 700 other churches all around the world, and maybe be praying some of the same things. And so just to know that the body of Christ is creating that synergy on the same things is pretty cool. Yeah. So, yep, agreed. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, I'd love to see you guys again sometime. You owe me lunch. Didn't I hear that? Didn't you say?
Yeah, you did hear that. That's correct. I know where you are. So
my schedule's working out where if you ever want like a Saturday thing or even a Sunday morning thing or a Sunday night thing, I mean, my sister-in-law lives in Gehenna still, so I go there. I go there.
Awesome. Well, we'll be taking you up on that. Yep. So we'll talk about that at lunch.
All right. Yeah. You guys take care. I appreciate
Thank you, Dave.
And glad you guys are serving in Gehenna, man. I love what I see about your church, and I love the heart, the outreach mindset, and I think that's awesome. And I'm really glad you guys are there doing that because
thanks, Dave.
The place in my heart is Gehenna.
Yep. Well, we love Grove City, so back at you, man.
Yep, we're both from there too. So thank you, man. Appreciate your time.
Crazy.
Yep.
It's
a small world. Thank you. You too.
Well, that's going to wrap up our episode today. We're so thankful for Dave and for all of the things that he's doing for the kingdom. We hope that you will join us in the 21 Days of Prayer. You can pick up one of these books in the lobby on Sunday. And of course, throughout the week, if you want to come and let us know that you're interested, we want you to participate and to join us in praying through the first 21 days of the new year. My thanks to Rob for being a part of it as well. If you have any questions, you can get a hold of us, podcast@shepnaz.org. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.
This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gehenna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.